Okay. Hello and welcome to Plain City Energy Aggregation 101. Chase Evans here with the Village of Plain City. And today we're going to be touching on all things community energy and municipal aggregation programs, what that could mean for the Village of Plain City, as this will be on the November 4th ballot. Residents will be able to vote yes or no if they allow the village the authority to aggregate electric and natural gas loads. Eventually, we'll choose an aggregator, but this will just give the village authority to do so by voting yes or no. Pleased to be joined by Brenda Fargo. She is the expert in Ohio aggregation. Has been working for decades in this space. Give us a little bit of your background. You're a part of one of the first energy aggregation programs in the state of Ohio, and you've been doing this all across many counties throughout Ohio for the last few years. What do you think?
I've been in hundreds of cities across city, villages, townships across the state since 2000. 2000 is when the energy deregulation law was created. And as a part of that law, it allows for local municipal governments to aggregate, meaning pool all of their residents on behalf of the energy for either gas or electric. So I was a part of the very first one, City of Parma, that put it on the ballot in 1999. Since then, over 400 communities have had ballot issues, just like you folks are going through, and have instituted their.
So this is really about choice, giving residents here energy options. The idea is to save money. The benefits of this are vast, and we'll get into that here. But can you give our viewers just an overview of what energy aggregation is, and why are we even pursuing this here in place?
As you know, there is within Ohio the opportunity for individual consumers to choose for an ultimate supplier for the gas and electric. About 50% of those people do not ever choose an alternate supplier, meaning they remain with the utility and full utility service. Oftentimes, most of the time, there's available savings that they can by shopping with someone else. But a lot of people are not comfortable doing. So aggregation comes in and provides them an opportunity for them to participate in the marketplace, but through their community. They're community leaders, folks. Do your due diligence and you find a supplier. And it's almost like the good old housekeeping schedule. You found a supplier, you know what that supplier is going to do for you, and you recommend that to the person. In order to do an opt-out program, this will be, opt-out means in the program unless you affirmatively choose to opt out. So you're in unless you take action to get out of the program. Because it's an opt-out program, that requires a vote, which is why we're here. The village put it on the ballot for November 4th for both gas and electric. If the residents decide they want to give the village the authority, that allows the village to then find a supplier and provide the program to all of the eligible residents.
It's just like the first step of the process. Then village residents will be able to, again, opt out if they choose. Can you kind of talk folks through what that will look like? We'll have some mailers that will go out if pass. Stay early in these states. We would have some things go out in the mail where you would have a chance to opt out. What does that exactly look like? And as you mentioned, if you do not choose to fill that form out, you automatically be opted in. So that's, again, something to be cognizant of. You mentioned how that process.
Certainly all the logistics of the ballot and then the things that the village council have to adopt, some public hearings. So there's some legal things that have to happen. Once that's all completed, the supplier will then send to every eligible resident and small business an opt-out packet. In that will be the letter, details what the offer is, what the term is, pricing, etc. Along with that will be terms and conditions, so you can read all of the legalese if you want to go through all of that, and decide if it's going to be. You will have 21 days to view that information. 21 days to read all of that, decide, do your research, decide if you want to stay. If at the end of 21 days you have not sent in a form or called, gotten online to opt out, you will be included in the program going forward. What that means is within 1 to 2 months, that will change on your electric bill or your gas bill. It will only be a new section on your bill. It's not getting a separate bill from whoever the supplier might happen to be. If you have budget billing, if you have automatic payments, any of those things you have already set up with utility, None of that goes away. The only thing that happens is you get a new supplier section on your bill, which details your charges to that particular supplier. Nothing else but this.
So most folks here in the village of Plain City have AEP Ohio, for instance, if you're not part of a co-op or something else. Reminders to residents and business owners, like you'll still have the same bill, the same supplier with the same, obviously, gas and electric lines going to your house. None of that will change transmission wise. The folks that, aggregators will have the energy come in, hopefully save by buying. Can you kind of mention how that very much is the case, that a lot of the things will stay in place, just the energy, where it comes from, transmission, but potentially be aggregated.
Yeah, a couple of things there. If you've got a brother-in-law work for AEP and reads meter, this has no impact on jobs, this has no impact on AEP as a company. They're completely neutral to this. There are hundreds of AEP communities that have opt-out aggregation programs, so that doesn't affect anything. Storm restoration stays with AEP, any of the meter reads, all of that kind of behind the meter stuff, that's what AEP is going to continue to do. As far as, rabbit trail, I apologize.
No, we're talking about how a lot of the utilities will stay the same in place, but aggregation in general will hopefully be buying this in bulk. Yes.
The idea is that you're going to pull all of your residents together in a group. So if you think about something that you get in the mail, you want you to do something. It has to be pretty. It has to look nice. You have to open it. It has to be attractive. That's for the supplier to print all of that material. If otherwise you have a group that you know you're going to get about 80% of the eligible people that are staying, that reduces acquisition costs for your buyer. That's where the savings comes from. By simply allowing the supplier to know they're going to get a good bang for their buck, as opposed to having to pay a lot of money to get 1 to 2% of the eligible residents, they're going to get 80 to 90% of the stay in.
Can you hear?
They're saying it's bad audio.
Oh.
We're moving the,
We can try. We're gonna work through some audio here potentially. We can try to move the camera a little bit closer. Sorry about that.
Guess we can speak a little louder.
Is talking louder
Is that
help
helpful?
to the Facebook Live viewer?
Can you hear us better?
I guess we can keep going and see how we sorry about that. So what's common misconception? You kind of touched on a few, Brenda, but a lot of the terms thrown out with aggregation supplier. What are the biggest misconceptions people might have when it comes to energy aggregation, how it affects community?
One of the things that I hear about in the ballot is people don't like the fact that they're giving up their personal choice, which is not accurate at all. All this is doing is adding another option in your toolkit. So if you want to go out and you want to shop for energy, you go to the Ohio apples to apples charts for both electric and gas, and you can choose a supplier. This only gives you one more option. So you could take the opt-out materials when you get them, read them. If this is not what you want to do, you can stay with full utility service or you can shop with someone else. So this does not take choice away. So there's some people that don't like the idea that government's getting into this. It really is a service to provide an option to folks who otherwise don't feel comfortable going out in the marketplace and trying to figure out what kind of supplier to go with.
And there's certainly, this is a safeguard.
Yes.
There's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of predatory practices out there that folks that maybe aren't used to seeing these hidden fees in their bill. You know, if you're shopping and by yourself, there's a lot of things you have to look out for. And we talked about that, Brenda, here. You have some examples in the Apples to Apples website.
This morning, I printed off just whatever came up as the first 6 or 5 or whatever. And already in these offers, there are problems. So the very first one is a fixed price for 12 months of 8.97 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a pretty good price. Right nowadays,
What's the catch though, right?
if you go all the way out to the right, there's a monthly service fee of $19.95. If you don't look at that and you sign up for that thinking you're going to do that 897, you're not. It's more like 10 or 11 cents once you figure up that $20 a month service fee. So these are some of the things that happen. There's another one right underneath it. It's an 8-month offer. At the end of the 8 months, it goes on month to month, meaning that they can charge you whatever they want. There's no cap, there's no upper limit. They can charge you whatever they want after that 8-month period is over with. So unless you've done something, you're going to find your bill later. These are two examples that just came up when I did this morning of why aggregation helps people not get involved in these type of things. Because when the government, when your village does the due diligence to find a supplier, you know you're not going to have a cancellation fee. You know you're not going to have these hidden fees. You're not going to have something where it's going to keep going up. It's really to protect those folks who don't feel comfortable going out and having the knowledge in the market.
And it's worth noting, there will still be fluctuations in the market. Like aggregation doesn't negate that. Just as AEP Ohio might go up across the board and down the next month, that will still be impacted, but hopefully aggregation by and large would give people that peace of mind and again, knowing that we're going after the best rate possible and bulking it together in this bulk pricing. There's a lot of advantages to that.
And there's nothing to say 6 months down the line, you're in the program and some amazing offer comes across your mail, you can opt out at any time and do something else. There's never a cancellation fee. And if you're currently in the supply program and you want to get into the aggregation program, you can do that anytime mid-spring is happening.
That'll just be as easy as filling out that form, which will be available.
Right, or be online with the supplier or making a phone call.
Some questions we got back, if some folks really might be into like looking at their bill each month, but maybe changing every 3 to 4 months, going always with the cheapest option. Could people do that, opt out, maybe opt back in 6 months from now with the aggregation?
You can absolutely do that. You're flexible to come and go as you want. You just need to understand that it takes 1 to 2 meter read cycles for those changes to occur. So it's not like instantaneous.
Sure.
So even after the opt-out process, it'll take 1 to 2 months for it to start to appear on your bill. So yes, you can come and go as you want. Now, if you go out in the marketplace, you have to be very careful because there are high cancellation fees, and we already talked about some of the other downfalls that you can find in some of these offers. But yes, you can come and go as you please.
Sure. And then who would be eligible for this program in the Village of Plain City? Obviously, you have to be a resident here. Small businesses are also eligible. There are some requirements to that, but kind of mention who would and who could not be eligible.
Excellent question. If the voters approve this and goes through all the process, the opt-outs will be sent to only eligible residents and small businesses. Who is that? Anyone who has not shopped for a supplier already. So if you've gone out and you have a supplier on your bill, Dynegy or IGS or any of those, if you have a supplier on your bill, you will not receive an opt-out letter. You've already made a choice. Aggregation is not about getting in between you and whatever choice you've already made. So you're not eligible. You will not get an opt-out letter. The only way you can get into the program is at the end of your current contract by enrolling in the program. Others that would not be eligible are those that are on percent of income plan payment. That's folks that need assistance in paying their utility bill. They are not eligible by state law, so they would not get an opt-out letter. Small businesses, if you use over 700,000 kilowatt hours annually, you're not eligible. And again, if you already have a supply contract with someone else, you're not eligible. So we typically see about 50% of the households being eligible during an opt-out period.
Sure. I believe we have some other questions that have been submitted via email and even hopefully maybe from our Facebook live post as well. But Haley, who's monitoring this feed, can you kind of mention some other questions from residents here at Plain City?
Yeah, I think one of the main concerns I've heard is just the transparency, how we know that this rate will be at better, how it compares to everything that might be available in the apples to apples, and how they learn that rate, where they can go to compare it themselves. If you could just talk a little bit about that.
Certainly. The first thing that you can do is once the aggregation program is in place and you have the price, when you see on your bill, whatever that price ends up being for the supplier, you always have on your bill a price to compare. So at the top of your bill, it will give you a price to compare from the utility. What that means is if whatever price that you contract with or the supplier for the village, if it beats that price to compare, you're saving money than if you were with the utility. Now, aggregation programs do not list their prices on the Apples to Apples website, because they're not publicly available. They're only available to whatever municipality they're under contract to. So if you wanted to compare whatever the village's rate is with suppliers at large, you need to go out to the Apples to Apples. And I would suggest maybe you put that link, on your website for folks to go to. And you can then look through all of the offers and compare them to what you're getting from the village.
Just to clarify, that Apples to Apples website is through Energy Choice. And it's really, again, plays out both sides, gas and electric, and again, you can do the comparison tool in real time. Again, and those points of data change every day because the market does fluctuate every day.
Yeah.
And some other questions?
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. If the village goes out for aggregation for gas and electric, are those rates locked in for a certain amount of time?
It depends on what the village decides to do. We talked earlier about, right now, it's difficult to lock in for a long period of time. There's so much volatility, and I don't want to get into all the technical things, but there's a thing called capacity, and there's a lot of things going on that really preclude going out for 3 years. It used to be the standard to go out for a 3-year price. Now, if you do that, you typically can find yourself underwater. So we are not suggesting that people lock in for 3 years. But yes, whatever pricing that the village determines that they want to do will be clearly identified on that opt-out form that you get in the mail. So you can understand term, price, fixed, whatever it happens to be. So that'll all be very clear.
I think another question people are curious about is, so again, just to reiterate, if this passes November 4th, obviously, if this is more yes votes, what are the next steps here? What would it look like the next few months for residents here?
Not a lot's going to change. Early on, it does take a little bit of time. First of all, the village is going to have to determine how they want to go about getting a supplier. And once that's determined, then there's 2 public hearings that have to occur. Because again, in transparency, the legislation requires that there's a plan of operation and governance. What that means, it's a document that dictates how the village's program is going to be run. And there's 2 public hearings that's held on that document, meaning residents have the opportunity to come in, ask questions about the aggregation program. Why are we doing it this way? What does this mean? All of those types of things. There's 2 public hearings that have to happen. And then it has to be formally adopted legislatively by the village council. Once that's done, then the utility will send the eligible customer list to the supplier. And you have to file that opt-out. Everything is very, very dictated by the law. So the opt-out has to be filed with the PUCO 10 days before it goes out. Again, that's an opportunity for people to see it before it actually goes out. Then it gets mailed to all the residents. It's a 21-day opt-out period. At the end of that, enrollments start, and then you'll start to see that in your bill. So it's really after the election about a 3 to 3.5 month process.
And then mention again, Brenna, just the community impacts. Again, savings might be, minimal to begin with, but that will add up over time. And again, you're saving $10 and $15 a month, and that will add up throughout the community over time.
Yes.
Mention maybe 3 years out this passes. What kind of economic impact positively could this contribute to Plain City, keeping money in our local economy here, for instance, throughout small savings that turn into larger savings over time through aggregation?
Right. And that's the thing. You're not going to see, this is not winning the lottery.
Right.
You're not going to see a huge savings in each individual household. You will see savings, and all of that savings will then total for money that stays here. Pizza money, milk money, lunch money for sending your kids to school. In aggregate, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years for those folks to save. There have been, since 2000, when aggregation came in, millions and millions and millions of dollars have been saved by all of the residential aggregation programs across the state.
And it's worth noting, many central Ohio communities have already implemented gas and electric aggregation. This is not a new thing.
No.
You said hundreds across the state. Many of our neighbors around here in the county and surrounding counties have done this to much success. Am I right?
Yes, much success. And the reason that it's now, we were kind of up until the last year, energy prices were pretty low and they stayed pretty low. So there really wasn't a lot of incentive for municipalities, villages, et cetera, to put it on the ballot. No one was really complaining about their energy bills. Well, when they ramped up to almost 11 cents last summer, now's the time that a lot of villages that haven't done this in the past are thinking, you know what, now we got to do something because this is now a pain point for our community. And that's why I think the village has decided to put it on the ballot now because there are savings available. And if you get savings, why not?
And the market is a bit unpredictable, but this just again streamlines it. Aggregation, we're looking out for your best interests. You mentioned gas can fluctuate a lot more than electric a lot of times. And again, just things that folks, if you're not really educated in it every day, wouldn't necessarily know. This safeguards you again, just touch on like this, this safeguards a lot of things, and it's very much a conservative option, when it comes to balancing your energy.
Yeah, and it's safe because you can get out anytime. You're not locked in, and there's never a cancellation fee. What this does is it helps you not to go out to apples and sign up for a deal that ultimately you're going to pay a lot of. That's what this is all about. It's not about dictating your choice. It's about protecting you from predatory practices that really have developed over the last 10 or 12 years that really hurt people.
Some last little resources that you can point folks to after this live stream, the OCC or elsewhere, and we'll share some links and some things in the comments of this post. Village of Plain City website is also a great resource. We'll share that page, our aggregation webpage. But some other resources quickly, Brenda, that you would point folks to.
But you have a homework assignment. I want you to look at your gas and electric bill. A lot of times what happens is people have signed up for these short-term, very low price deals, and it then turns into this month-to-month thing. So if you look at your electric bill and you're paying any more than 9 cents, please call your supplier and find out what contract you're under and make a change, because you've probably gotten into one of these month-to-month things. I've seen people pay as high as 15 cents per kilowatt hour because they've been on a month-to-month program. And you just need, that's your homework assignment. Just take a look at it, because it's easy to have that out of mind when you're getting it just automatically deducted from your bank account. They don't send you the bill. You still need to think about it. So take some time to review that.
Well, thanks so much, Brenda, for your time. We appreciate it. And again, remember, November 4th, Plain City Gas and Electric Aggregation will be on the ballot. We encourage you to get out and vote and make your voice heard. Thanks so much for your time again, Brenda. And remember, November 4th, the election, get out and vote.